Let's do it, do it, do it. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. All right. So now we've got even more controls and warnings. This is being recorded. This is being live streamed. This is 10 million warnings. My goodness. Welcome, everyone, to our book study group. John Lavenia here with you live and in person, unless, of course, you're seeing this on recording, then it was live, but you weren't here. I do see a few of my favorite peoples with us here right now. I see Bob and Missy and Kelly. Lindsay, I wasn't going to start without you, Lindsay. I was thinking when Lindsay shows up, then I know it's the top of the hour. And now it's like a minute after the top of the hour. So it's like, what?
Jumping jacks. That's
Yeah,
going on.
that's right. She was doing her exercise. Jennifer's
Thanks,
here.
Liz.
Hey, Jennifer. Welcome to you. Glad you're here. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to talk about a couple more chapters from the book that I wrote back in 2008. Integrity is everything. So let's jump right into it. We read 2 chapters this week. Let me say this. There's a couple of observations I've had as I've been going through this. Because I not only wrote the book, but I've reread it multiple times. And I know what I was going to say. I get through these chapters really quick. Like I don't study them like I would normally study a book, like, reading Napoleon Hill or, some of the more intense things that I've studied, where even though I've gone through it, like I've read Think and Grow Rich 13 times cover to cover, but I go through it like with a fine tooth comb. This has been interesting for me because it's like, yeah. The main observation that I've had is, I might word that a little bit differently. I might use a couple different words there and there. Maybe not be so abrasive, John, with some of this stuff. Like we get into the chapter and opportunity knocks, and the one that comes after it is the most bold and abrasive chapter of all. So we're going to be covering that next week. And then we'll come in for a nice landing, but we're going to get into that next week. But this week we covered, hopefully you read, Where Are You Going? Which I would say is the most spiritually oriented chapter in the book. And then Opportunity Knocks, which kind of goes on a bit of a roller coaster ride through victimhood and how attractive and seductive it seems to be to most people. So who's got some thoughts on these 2 chapters? Where Are You Going? Right? Which actually is a title that I ripped off from Swami Muktananda, Hindu guy, Siddha Yoga lineage, right? India and all this. And he actually wrote a book called Where Are You Going? And it was a book for like beginners who were wanted to get into meditation and stuff like that. Interesting question to ask a spiritual seeker. Where are you going? So anyway, I named the chapter that, and then Opportunity Knock. So who's got some thoughts right out of the gate on these 2 chapters, Missy?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I love the formless substance, and you touched on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Where Are You Going chapter. But what I really wanted to, for myself, concentrate on was there was a quote in the next chapter that said something about circumstances may not be congenial, but they will not remain so if you will take up the what, do you remember that quote?
Mm-hmm.
This I've had this condition since a car accident in 1998. And my conditions have been, I've lived with the toilet next to my bed for 3 years because I couldn't get up in the past. I'm in a relapse. But despite it all, damn it all, I went for this. And I know my circumstances are not visibly appearing as I would like, but I know they're germinating. The health is germinating. I fully believe it. I say a Joseph Murphy healing prayer every single solitary day. And I know it's germinating. It's not possible for it not to grow. And it is going to change because I now am the cause of it. I'm no longer the effect of this thing called dysautonomia. A few months ago, I said to Bob, I am nothing but a collection of symptoms. And I just broke down crying because that's all I had. That's all I was. With the relapse. And I kind of think I was ready to die. I've lost almost 40 pounds for not being able to eat. That's part of the thing. You get GI stuff. But whatever I trip over, I right myself and I keep going. I may have to pivot a little to get
Mhm.
around the rock like the water, but I'm going full bore. That may not be your full bore because you go to the gym and all that, but I'm doing it for me. And I'm proud of myself and I'm grateful that I came upon this book and this group because it is not just changing my life, it's saving my life.
Wow. Well, thank you, Missy, and you are lavish in your praise of me, and I appreciate all that. I appreciate you saying that,
I'm
because
truthful in it.
well, right, and but what we validate expands, right? So the more that you recognize that you're getting value from whatever the teaching is, or whatever whoever the messenger was, the more that's real for you, and the more you're able to use it, and that expands in our life, right? So let's validate that. And the quote you were quoting, James Allen. Your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you but perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. I think that's out of As a Man Thinketh, one of his writings. But the idea here's the dichotomy of this, and where I look at it in terms of the where you're going chapter, right? So a lot of, if you've been on the path for any period of time, you've probably heard that we're not our body. Like, I am not my body. This is the physical stuff. This is the effect. In fact, this stuff right here, or whatever symptoms that you're collecting, right? Those are effects. Okay, they're not cause. It all comes back to the law of laws, cause and effect. So can I just objectively look at that, even if it's like looking at my own body and saying, okay, I am not that. Okay, but I am that. What that am I talking about? That allness, that state of being, cause. Now that is difficult, right? To remember that when we're seduced by appearances, congenial or not, right? Oh, pleasing appearances. Oh yeah, let's get engrossed in that. Oh, not pleasing appearances. Let's begrudgingly be engrossed in that, and that which we validate expands. Right. So yeah, we're here, we're going to play the game. So the dichotomy is the game. And we talked about this in that chapter. The game is forget who you are so that you can have a game. Because if you really knew that I am that, like that, and we're talking on a lofty sense now, like on a spiritual sense, if like I am, like that's your affirmation and like that's the truth, because it is, okay. But if you really knew that, no game. No game. If you're 100% knowing and willing cause, then you can never be the effect, right? No game. So I guess that brings us to the point of all of this. What's the purpose of this? Why are we walking around in bodies and doing this planet Earth thing? If I'm not my body, what are we doing here? We're having the experience. We're having the experience. Some of it's pleasing, some of it's not, just like any game. Interesting. Now, can we have that level of discernment and actually detachment from it? I think of and I'm not suggesting you do this, but there's like Buddhist priests that light themselves on fire because they've just completely like gotten out of the body, and it's like, this isn't me. Light it on fire, whatever. Who cares? I'm not the body. Again, it's not a suggestion. Everyone, that's not a suggestion. Okay, and I don't get it. I don't personally get that, because I guess if you're that completely done with the experience, maybe you're truly like beyond like the whole life, earth, incarnation thing. Okay. Again, I'm not there, so I'll keep working on it. And that's quite a statement that you can make. I suppose others can gather around and observe. There's even a saying about that, Bob, right? Light yourself on fire and the world will come to watch, or something like that. Just don't do that literally. But yeah, that's something that some of those people have done. That brings us to the next level. We're not our mind. I have a mind, right? I use the mind, but I'm not the mind. If the ultimate acknowledgement is I am, or I am that, right? Being precedes doing. Mind is an action. Thinking is an action. Being precedes doing. Doing precedes having. Here's the having. Here's the body. So the difficulty with that I have found is that I can't choose at will to just leave the body or the mind. It seems like I'm kind of stuck. And we can call that a triune being, right? Body, mind, spirit. Anyone who's been on, studying for any period of time, you certainly heard these sort of concepts. I shouldn't assume that everyone has, by the way, right? So body, mind, spirit, triune being. Okay, so I'm at this point, right? It's not something that I do on a regular basis to just leave the body and think nothing and just go be. No game, right? Just go be. No doing and no having. No game, no experience, just being. How long do you want to do that? I guess here's the other question about that, and I'm kind of hijacking the conversation now, but I'd love to hear from other people as well. But let's say that it was all be, no do, and no have. So there's you just in space. I am. How long do you want to do that? Couple millennia, maybe a trillion years? You'd probably want to do something else. You know what? Let me go have dualism here. Let me go like have a body and have limitations. Yeah, limitations. Now I've got to strive. I've got to work. I've got to go achieve things or something. Interesting game. Here we are doing it. Anybody else have some thoughts about this? No, we just plateaued. We just crescendoed with that one idea of you floating in space and doing nothing. Go ahead, Lindsay.
No, I did. I just totally that totally trumped that. I don't. Yeah, I got nothing. Yeah.
Get the matches. Let's light ourselves up.
There you go. There we go. I got the Kool-Aid here. Let's pass around the Kool-Aid. Lindsay's speechless. Let's go to Kelly. Hey, Kelly, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, if you really want to get into like the heavy duty mystical side of things, it's called the divine union of the soul with the Almighty. And in that state of being is a mystical union. And so it's really awesome. So I don't know how long people get to go there, but most people just have glimpses of it. And no matter what someone's faith, everyone has had, if you ask them, they've had a mystical moment of some kind where they experience that, like,
Right.
that like, the awe of God. But what I was going to think about was a good analogy, because I ride horses, and I'm going to backtrack one. Missy, I also had severe dysautonomia. It's taken me 8 years, but I'm about like 90% better. Praise God. So there is a path.
Text me your text number or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, but part of my recovery is going to ride horses, because a horse can do what you can't do. So if your physical body, your brain's like, let's go here, and your body's like, no effing way. It's like a disconnect between your intention and your physiology. They don't jive very well. But when you ride a horse, the horse can do all those things that you can't, you see. And so it's very fun. And I'm a person who used to do tons of active things, and so being inactive was very difficult for me. All that to say, when you ride a horse, I'm thinking about how our mind and our body can connect, because a horse and rider they're a unit. They're unified. And so, because I'm the rider, right? But my horse weighs like 1,400 pounds. And she's gigantic. So if she doesn't like what I'm asking her to do, she doesn't have to do it. So we have to get along, right? But when we get it and we do it together, it's like, so good. So I think that's kind of like how our body can connect or coordinate, and it's that horse and rider thing. And then John, like what you were saying is like, we're not our mind, we're not our body. So that mystical sense of, well, who's the thinker? Where am I in all of these components? I was actually meditating on that this morning in my journal, that very thing. It's like, where am I, the person who chooses, the person who makes the decision? Where am I in the midst of all these sort of components of experience? Okay, that's my philosophical 10 cents.
There you go. Wow. And look, more benefits, Missy, right? So Kelly's got an experience that could be of use to you as well in terms of solutions. Look, this is the beauty of masterminding, which of course we're doing right now, courtesy of the paying members of the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. So there are answers to be had, and they already exist. Isn't that beautiful? They already exist. So you don't have to originate or like pioneer, a new wheel or something. There already is such a thing as a wheel. That's fantastic. Back to the idea of where you're going, right? And just considering like all the busyness, all the doing this, all the stuff, right? And all the games, right? To what end? To what end? So what does it matter 1,000 years from now? Let's say, hopefully you've had a big effect, right? Which could benefit someone else tomorrow, next year, 1,000 years from now, what have you. Okay. There are some people who've had some very big influences in the history of the world, right? And you know their names. So where are you going with all this? To what end are you doing all this action? Hopefully action. And we're going to get into that in the next chapter, opportunity knocks, right? Are you taking action? Or are you sitting there bitching and griping with victim society about why you can't? Right. So I know that strikes a chord with a lot of people. So we're getting a bit abrasive here because I used the R word a couple of times. Responsibility, which typically sends people in the other direction, right? Oh, don't say responsibility. That's the last thing we want. Any other thoughts on these chapters before I dive into the text?
Well, it just struck me that in the chapter, Where Am I Going? You speak a lot about the force, and you call it God. Okay, now I got to, full disclosure here, studied for the priesthood, traditional Catholic priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
I know the theology and philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. And it's very interesting because, John, you kind of dodged the notion of a personal God.
Mm-hmm.
It is a God that acts with a purpose, right? God is not an disembodied force, all right? For people who believe in God, and I don't want to open this up to a religious polemic, but the Supreme Being acts with intention, and we are part of that intention. All of creation is part of his intention, and therefore our job is to act according to his intention. Now, it's very interesting that you said be, do, have, because when Moses approached the burning bush, how did God define himself? What name did he give himself? I am who am. And being is the same in God as truth and unity and goodness, the four transcendentals. In Latin, ens unum verum bonum. And we are directed towards God. The mind is directed towards God because of the truth. Our intellect is made to pursue and discern the truth. Our will is designed to go after the good. The intellect is a man who can see but cannot walk. He's lame. Therefore, he apprehends the truth. The will, working in concert with the intellect, provides the motion. The will has legs but cannot see. And what the intellect perceives as good, or what the intellect perceives as truth, the will perceives as good. The will is made to go after the good. And therefore, our whole raison d'etre is to go after the truth and the good. Ultimately, that takes us to God, which is supreme being. We cannot become God, but we can, as Kelly put it, get to that mystical union with him. And unfortunately, religion gets a bad name because it's the thou shalt nots.
Right.
Okay. But there's an awful lot of joy and happiness that can be gained by the religious experience, by the contemplation of the wonderful creation that we are and the high standing to which we are all called. And the accomplishment of designing, building, accumulating, when done within the parameters of this is in the service of the Lord God, cannot be wrong.
That's integrity.
That's integrity,
That's
and that's
integrity.
everything.
There you go. That's why I named the book the way I did, and that's why I included this chapter, because I had all these ideas that seemed like this is a higher truth than I could even tell you about. Like, it's going to sound like so-called mystical or at least metaphysical, and yeah, and it is, and it is. It's not like I can even vocalize to you the experience that, or the totality of the experience that I've observed for myself and with others when we become successful at doing these worldly things that we intend to do. The truth is prior to my thoughts about it. Even like the concept of God, energy, allness, pure potentiality, whatever the words are. Now we're using words which aren't the truth. They just point to the truth, which is prior to my thoughts about it. So I can't tell you the truth. I can't. It's impossible, because now I'm using my brain and words, and that's limited. That's limited. So spiritual discernment is in order. Anyone here ever read any of Joel Goldsmith? Joel Goldsmith, parentheses, an attorney in eternity, the infinite way. He was kind of like a modern day apostle guy. And he said something which I thought was profound, was that spiritual truths must be discerned spiritually, not intellectually. So like all this talking and talking and talking isn't it. That's not it. So this is kind of a heavy chapter for me. Where are you going? Where am I going with all this? Thank you, Bob. I didn't know you had that training as well. That's you've got a lot. You got a lot in that noodle there.
It's
Wow.
small. Like,
Yeah, Bob knows stuff, Missy. Maybe listen to Bob, So
She listens to you. So now that you told her to listen to me,
he's
maybe
from
she,
New
maybe she'll
Jersey.
start
He
with-
understands.
okay.
yeah. Well, look, I think it's no secret that I grew up in New Jersey, and yeah, here was the Italian Catholic family and all that. I got very little mileage out of that, me personally. Okay, the whole organized structure of that. I did get plenty of examples of I suppose dogma, and other things where people vocalized their so-called faith, and in some cases demonstrated it, and in some cases definitely did not. So, but who am I to judge, right? So what I'm looking to do here in this chapter is take a bit more of a posture of the observer, the witness, and just kind of see if I can explain in some way what seems to be workable, because I think that's the real test of this stuff. We want to be scientific about it. Does it bear fruit? It does. Okay, good. And does it bear fruit for all? And it does. It holds water. All right. So getting into this. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. So getting into the text of all this, I already mentioned that the words aren't the truth; they point to the truth. Okay, so since people have all of these meanings that they add to the labels, to the words, right? Because it's easy to spell. I'll use the word God here. That's fine. Okay, and I'm not looking to limit this concept, because words about it only limit us, since it's not something that can be limited. Right. So the truth is prior to my thoughts about it. So in this case, and this may be via that indoctrination into traditions of pious suffering or what have you, which is where I have found some, organized religion goes in a direction that does not bear fruit, at least in my observation. The idea, subtle or apparent, that there's virtue in poverty. And that we talked about this before, that if you get more, I get less. And so it would be good and right for me to live on a meager pittance, right? Therefore, you can have what you need to have, right? No, wrong. I've discovered that the best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. We read in our book study group a couple of months ago, we read the Science of Getting Rich, and Wallace Wattles makes the case very clearly for this. Why, going and being successful is one of the most noble pursuits. And as Bob just reminded us, right, you were doing this for higher purposes as well. But when people say, well, God willing, I'll reach my goals. Hold on a second there. Remember the R word, right? Responsibility. So I would argue that the fact that I've got this drive, this desire, this goal, this intent, ethical, right? And like good thing, it's not my intent to go out and murder people or something, right? So that's not what we're talking about. So you got ethics, and you've also got some intentions, things you want to accomplish in life, that is actually God's will for you. So this is that allness, that energy seeking expression through you as an individualization of that allness. It says here, according to this scripture right here, ask and it shall be given you. Not might be, not I'll try, right? Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. So how do you ask? And now we can get into, we talked about before, vibration, resonance, frequencies, what you are in love with, what you are in a harmonious vibration with. If I'm on the vibration, let's say I'm operating in the frequency of expectancy, believing that I'm receiving right on schedule, and I don't know all the plans. I don't have all the answers. Okay, but what frequency is that? What vibration am I in? Gratitude, right? Thanksgiving. These are the states of expectancy, and what I would argue is that is the state of asking. Whatever you desire, when you pray, believe you receive them, and then you shall have them. There it is, right there. Believe that ye receive them. Present tense, ye receive them. That's the vibration or the emotional state that I can operate from when I'm conscious enough to actually do it, right? So here's the idea, is that the reason I've got this desire is that is God's will for me, whatever that desire happens to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the desire. So it's not like here's this omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, power that is going to say, you, John, will have this unfulfillable desire, and it's good and right, but you can't have it. Right? No, I don't buy that. Right? So if my purpose here is to have the experience, which doesn't include just getting, it includes giving, it includes being of value to the fellow inhabitants of this rock that we're on. Okay, well then let's have the experience. Let's do it. Let's play full out, and not wonder, is it God's will for me or something? And all this, secondary conversations of worthiness or unworthiness. For me, that was a major stop in my life. Should I? The should I's. And I got tired of people telling me what I should and shouldn't do, especially when their results were not what I would want in my life. Not only their like worldly results, but like how they express themselves as another individualization of this same power. I didn't have those words for it at the time. But then that brings me to this silly little example here. And again, you can do what you want with this, okay? But let's say, here's a blank checkbook. Go to Vegas, have a ball, play the games, watch the shows, do the whole thing. If you win money, I get it all when you get back. If you lose money, that's fine, whatever. It's over, it's done, right? So isn't that what life is? Right? I mean, we could look at that, maybe an oversimplification, okay? But you don't keep anything, right? You're going to have the experience, and then it's done. And then what's next? I can't speak too intelligently about what's next, okay? But if you look at it like that, and look, isn't this a crazy scene that we're in right now? It's kind of like going to Vegas. There's all kinds of drama going on, and there's acrobats, and there's freak show kind of stuff, and there's sane stuff too. There's production, there's destruction. Sure, right? You don't keep any of it. So I guess the punchline for all this for me is I believe that's why we're here. It's for God to experience itself through different aspects of its own attention to itself, in this case, as you.
Vegas.
So, and again, do with that what you like. I'm not here to argue scripture, or, people have different interpretations of that. That's what I have found is most workable for me, being an individualization of that. And here we could say, oh, you shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. So that's a statement of oneness. And humility, right? What is humility? But honest self-appraisal. And it was something that was, in this case, we're quoting Jesus here, right? In this case, there was no doubt about that. It wasn't a hope or a belief. It was a knowing. This is like way beyond like the stuff we walk around and do each day. Okay. But he also said that works that I do shall he also do, and greater works than these shall he do. So what does that mean to me? That means that it is incumbent upon me to not reject in some egotistical or separatist way, to reject that power that is operating through me. Oh, I'm not worthy of that. Let me condemn myself, right? We could walk around with platitudes. Oh, mommy, where is God? Oh, God's everywhere, except with you, little Johnny, except as you. Okay, well, that's pretty separatist. That's pretty bold and egotistical, right? Is that humble? So again, I'm attempting to look at this as with a higher level of discernment. All right. Now I'm not going to walk around and nobody call the white coats on me here. John's not walking around saying, "Hey, I'm God, everybody." Okay. So we're talking about on a spiritual level of discernment here, which again is why it's so hard to put this stuff into words, but I did my best. So people actually condemn themselves into various levels of mediocrity by insisting on a separation between them and the source. And of course, it's part of the game. That's what we were talking about. Otherwise, there's no game, right? We just get to be and not do and not have. So, but if we actually, here's what it says here. If we actually internalize and embody the words that have been given to us by the great masters, we immediately gain tremendous power and possibility in our life. This is, for me, this is the integrity that's been necessary. And it's been a lifelong process. So I don't know, any of you have, and I know we heard from, was it Kelly was saying that, people have had like flashes of this. People have had, experiences, which were profound. Okay. Can we have more of them? And can we commingle those with our activity? Can we get into the stillness and at the same time imbue that into our dynamic efforts, right? The movements that we're actually making as an individualization of that power. If we don't, then we're meat. We're meat. We're doing the mud and rocks thing, right? And that's kind of thin. Again, we're not the body. This is an identity crisis. Who am I? An identity crisis on a spiritual level. Who am I? And of course, as long as we're in the game, we get to have these limiting, thoughts and experiences. Here's somebody who figured it out. Gautama Buddha, when he was asked, "Who are you?" he said, "I am awake." I am awake. That's who I am. Well done, sir. I was having this conversation with a group of people. If you've read the book, you know the story. Here's the golf tournament, and like we're all talking business afterwards. And I said, guys, let me just tell you, the one thing that's made me more money than anything, and like the whole tent, there had to be like 100 people there. Dead silence as soon as I said that. Kind of like the E.F. Hutton commercials. We in E.F. Hutton talks, people listen, right? So, and I said, daily meditation. That's it. Sit there and shut up. That makes me more money than anything. Just stop talking. Right? Huge. Right. So then I get into that state where I'm reminded, oh yeah, I'm not all this drama, non-attachment. Thank you. Right. And I can operate at a higher level than just John, right? John. Oh my goodness. Right. No, there's a bigger game afoot here. And it imbues my activities with the qualities of what we can call the field of all possibility, and use whatever words you like there. So who's actually doing all this? I am not the doer. Yes, I'm chopping wood, I'm carrying water. Nice, I've got a body, there's the tools, I'm doing it, I'm using my tools. But I'm not really the doer. And if I can operate from that position more often than not, I can maintain that posture of the witness, and remembering, as we've talked about in other conversations, right? Purpose and faith. Purpose, like why am I even showing up, and faith that I can actually accomplish these things, right? And that they're being delivered right on schedule, like the quote, When you pray, believing ye received, then you shall have them. Faith. There you go. There's that story. And Bob, you may know this. Was this Moses? So here's these guys wandering through the desert, and then, you know, God has forsaken us. We need rain. And the guy comes back and says, well, where's the ditches? Right? If you prayed and you expected rain, you would have dug the ditches to collect the rain. Where's the ditches? Ye of little faith. Right? So yes, we dig the ditches, we chop the wood, we do the so-called work, I think this was maybe an Old Testament story here. Okay, people wandering in the desert without water. Sounds like probably an Old Testament story. Although you could see that right here in Arizona. I shouldn't laugh, right? I mean, at this point, there's, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff going on at the border. But we're getting to a place now, and hopefully we all are. We're getting to a place now if we've been studying, if we've been attempting to apply these things and actually have integrity to principles and, you know, scripture and right teaching and right thinking. We're getting to a place now where we have what's called economy of effort, where ultimately, and I'm not there yet, but ultimately there's not a whole lot of doing this, right? You don't chop the wood, right? You have the intention, you know, I could use some firewood. And next thing you know, there comes a guy coming down the street on a rickshaw, you know, with a load of wood and saying, hey, you know, we just got this tree that came down and we chopped up some wood. You need any wood? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. Right. So, and have we experienced that? Of course we have. It may not be specifically with, you know, the guy in the rickshaw with the wood, but have we experienced spontaneous delivery of things that we intended without like the so-called work? Bob, you've got an idea on that?
Well, I was just anticipating what you were coming to, your next scriptural quote. So I'll just hang on and wait till you get there.
Okay, well, there it is. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Bob, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, that is my favorite quote in all of scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But what precedes it is important too, because in it, Christ talks about the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, and how they do nothing. The birds don't sow or reap or gather into barns, and yet they're fed by their heavenly Father. The lilies of the field neither sow nor spin, but they're arrayed in a glory greater than Solomon. Mm-hmm. So, why should we worry? Why should we worry about what we're going to eat, what we're going to wear? God has provided this to us already. It's only up to us to, and then you supply the capper, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And so this is, from my perspective, this is divine revelation. This is God himself speaking, saying, apply the law of least effort.
Right. Wow. So there it is. We're hitting it from multiple angles, right? And this is not like a new truth or something. This was written a couple thousand years ago. Does it not still hold water? It does. It does. But if I'm so engrossed in the worldliness of it all, well, where am I going? Where am I going with all this? Right? And do I have to labor or belabor, the entire process, or can I just get into the flow with it? There it is. Thank you, Bob. So the work is in the being, the so-called work, right? Or the actual work. If we go back to the be, do, and have principle, right? It's here I am taking thought, deciding who I am, getting into a harmonious vibration with that, then taking action, doing, right? So, and spontaneous right action is a possibility, depending on the position from which I'm operating. And then the having is pretty much automatic, right? It's like all these things should be added onto you. Okay, great. So am I even the doer then? Or do I have to force any of this? The work is in the being. That is the work. Capital T, capital H, capital E. That's the work. And then we'll go ahead and arrange the receiving pipelines. Let me go chop the wood. Let me carry the water. Fine, whatever. That's fine. Because I'm expected to rain. Let me go dig the ditch. So yeah, I'm digging a ditch. Look at me, I got my shovel. But the work was becoming the guy who would have the water. I'm the guy who expects water. Let me go dig the ditch now. And I got this example that flashed into my mind as I was writing this, of the slide projector. You guys remember the 1970s where you got the slide projector? It's like this carousel, and we're going to watch the baby pictures, and you click the clicky thing, and then the next picture, oh, more baby pictures, more friggin' baby pictures. Oh my goodness, is it ever going to end? Right. But I think about that because let's say I'm done with that picture. I'm done with that picture. All I got to do is change the slide. I get a whole different experience. So the projector itself, which is the source of the light in this case, right? The light bulb. Does the light bulb have any preference as to what experience you're about to have? No, it's just the source, right? It's just light, right? How about the screen? The effect, right? So we could say cause effect, right? So does the screen have any thoughts about the filter that you're shining the light through? No, it's just a pure white screen. So, so all I've got to do is change the filters. That's it. Through the quality of my own attention to my own life and the filters through which I experience it, I can have a whole different experience. Who's in control here? Kelly, you got some thoughts on this? You're muted.
I am muted. I did have a little thought. What I like to call that walking in the favor. You know, if you seek God in His kingdom and His righteousness, and then everything's added unto you, those moments where those things just arrive, I call that walking in the favor. But there's a reason we can walk in the favor, because one, we're seeking God, and two, we are doing our best to do what He says is right. Then we walk like behind Him in His shadow, and that's the favor. To me, that's the favor of God.
Wow.
That's how I see it.
Beautiful.
But one thing I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to say is, like, one of my priest friends, I'm Catholic too, he always goes, Kel, it's a ride. It's like a ride, you know, like, and more like an amusement. But he rides like motocross and stuff, that kind of ride, not horseback riding. But he's like, it's just a journey, it's a ride. And I was thinking, when you say about experience, John, it makes me think about my friend Michael, who says it's a ride. When you're with the Lord, it's a ride. But one thing that makes me a little bit sad is, like, it's also about love, you know, and like we got all this intellectual thought thing going on, which is great. It brings up great conversation. But if it doesn't hit our heart, then, you know, we're just like on the ride and we're not really having joy. And yeah, so real living is a matter of the heart, isn't it? Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Well, sure. Yeah. And the, even in matters of the heart, let's say, as you use your words, right? Are there filters through which you experience the reality of your relationships, your service, your giving? Right. So I'm thinking right here, just based on what we were just talking about, we actually do have some causation in all this. If life is not just as it is, right, but as we are, right, and that's been said, again, to quote James Allen, then it's incumbent upon me to be deliberate about who's showing up to do the observing, which can make it a very different experience, a more pleasing experience in the heart as well. Thank you, Kelly. So the bottom line is, the truth is prior to my thoughts about it. Since I'm in control of the slide projector, I could say with full integrity that I'm always at cause for my own experience. I'm not a victim, which brings us to the next chapter. But before we get there, and then the punchline was, yeah, but what do I know anyway, right? So here I am pouring out all of my intellectual ramblings, trying to explain myself to the best of my ability. And the punchline is, what do I even know? So, which I think Lindsay would enjoy hearing me say that. So simple action. Sit there and shut up for at least a half hour a day. There you go. Very simple, right? The idea is to get to a place of no thought. You can focus on your breath. There's lots of different techniques you could use, but the idea is to get to a point of no more evaluations. I think this is good. I think that's bad. I think to get to a point where that stops. Take some practice. Now, once you've done this, now you're quiet, right? Now, what's the intention? Why are we showing up here? What's that guaranteed future outcome? Back to like our goals and seeing ourselves already in possession of the good that we desire. Believe ye receive them, right? How does that feel? Great. Now let's go and get to work. Now let's go chop wood and do the thing, right? Dig the ditches. You can write this out, right? Just like part of your journaling experience, right? And this can crystallize and become more specific, maybe in different words, oh, I see some other details I didn't see yesterday, right? So we can do this on a consistent basis and put ourselves back into the emotional state and that vibration, right? Get on that frequency, right? But we start from a blank slate. Takes a little bit of practice. Now, assuming we do that, now we could tackle opportunities with a clean slate and with intent to actually have a successful experience. And this is, if there was anything, close to the idea of like bringing somebody, back to life or reinvigorating someone, it is about recapturing purpose and actually doing something about it. When I wrote this chapter, I was engrossed very, very much in the world of business development and business opportunity and attempting to assist people in becoming successful as entrepreneurs, which I'm still involved in. Okay. But this was, when I wrote this 11, 12 years ago, it was a result of having a lot of exposure in a short period of time to people who had raised their hands and said, I would like to have your results. I would like for you to show me how to become successful in a business environment. And then what ensued after that request was answered to the tune of thousands of people was very interesting to me. It was very revealing to me. In fact, it still is to this day. I will say this, and I'm going to say this just with our little group here, but there are people who I get to interact with on a daily basis, and you may run into some of these people, and let's say they're newer in business or they're hopefuls. They're hopeful, and some of the emotional reaction and the adverse reaction that people get to opportunity is astounding to me. Astounding, like what they're able to do to keep themselves apart from the so-called successful group of people and out here as someone who can't have that. It's become so obvious to me because I've observed it so much. And that's what I attempt to explain here in this chapter. We start with a quote from Ben Disraeli. Man is not the creature of circumstances. Circumstances are the creatures of men. We are free agents, and man is more powerful than matter. Pretty powerful quote. So here at the beginning of this chapter, I tell my story about my transition out of the last corporate job I ever worked. So this is going back 20 something years. Okay. You can read, hopefully you've read it for yourself, but it's pretty graphic. One of the things that I had to come to terms with was the idea that one door closes and another opens. What does that mean? That means opportunity, but it's dark in the hallway. I can't see all the details of where I'm going, right? I know a door must be opening. Intellectually, I can perceive that, but I don't see it. One door closes, another opens, but it's dark in the hallway. So this adversity that I was experiencing, right? I had to reinterpret as evidence that my success is imminent, that I'm getting really close to that next plateau in my life, that I can't stay comfortable. And in fact, I wasn't comfortable in the familiarity of conditions and jobs and income vehicles and whatever I was doing, right? That I was outgrowing my post and that Rome was burning all around me. And that was an indicator. Yes, that was an indicator that this next level is coming. It's being delivered right on schedule. Now, when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to, or can be, I'll speak for myself. It was hard for as long as I was just allowing all the noise to go on in my head. It was hard for me to observe or interpret that this adversity is just an investment in my imminent and inevitable success. Back to the idea of faith. I wouldn't embrace opportunity if I didn't have some degree of faith that it could actually bear fruit, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. If I'm nothing but a victim and I can't cause stuff to happen in my life, I've got no shot at being successful in any opportunity. That's what I had to realize. So thank you for the adversity. Okay, so here's what happened. Within 90 days of embracing opportunity, I reached my goal that I had missed for years. Now, had I not received that pay cut, 3 in a year, by the way, which they called the promotion, which was interesting, I might still be working that job, or I might be dead. In fact, I remember being in the hospital, and the doctors, while I was unconscious, doctors were talking to my wife. She told me, they said that your husband will be dead in 5 years if he keeps going like this. This is in my early 30s. So I don't have a crystal ball, but Rome was definitely burning all around me. Here's the punchline. Don't marry the vehicle. I don't care how hard I work in that opportunity, in that income vehicle, a job in this case that I worked where I was under control. Okay. Rat on the wheel, right? I don't care how fast the rat runs. Where's it going? Like the last chapter. Where's this rat going? Run to death if you want. Wrong vehicle. So that's what I had to get with. I had to get with that idea, and I had to be willing to go in that dark hallway and open that door. I've got to be willing to confront my best thinking, which got me this far, but not further. My best thinking was only worth so much, and it wasn't that much. Okay. So I've got to be willing to go to any lengths to have the experience that I'm on this planet to have. Half measures avail us nothing. This is a quote from Bill Wilson. If anyone knows who that is, that's the guy who started Alcoholics Anonymous. Half measures avail us nothing. Now he's talking to a bunch of drunks. They're going to go drink themselves to death and die of cirrhosis. Okay. So how serious are you about this? How bad do you want it? Successful people are in the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And why? Because they want it bad enough. No half measures here. This is a quote from Albert Gray, who was a big shot at Prudential back in the 1950s. He gave this speech on the common denominator of success. He said, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, successful people are in the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And it's not that I'm lucky. Look at me. I like doing these things, and so sad for you that you don't like doing them. I just do them anyway. Because I'm willing to subordinate my own preferences of pleasing or unpleasing methods because I've got a reason. I want it bad enough. No half measures here. I will go to any lengths to get this done, even if it means developing a new habit, which isn't easy to develop. Notice he said the habit of doing things, right? I'm going to do these maybe not so pleasing things so consistently that they become habitual. And before I can even talk myself out of it, I'm doing it already habitually. Now we're talking. And he said, that's the common denominator of success. And you'll know that you've found people like this. By their fruits, you shall know them, right? So here's now we can become the fruit inspector. So if we're looking at am I looking to follow someone? Am I looking for a mentor or a leader in business? Well, let's become fruit inspectors here. What kind of results are they getting? I know many of you right now in this conversation are receiving mentoring from people who are further down the road than you, and by their fruits, you know them. Look at those statistics. Very nice, right? Does that mean that they're untouchables or something? No, that just means they've made some decisions before you did, and they've been consistent. They developed a habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And if you don't want to be a failure, then you could develop those habits too. But that's one vehicle, right? Oh, you don't like that vehicle? Okay, well, is this one going to get you where you want to go? The point for me was, as long as I was in the wrong vehicle, it doesn't matter how hard I work, I was barking up the wrong tree. There's no getting my goal in that vehicle. So again, the goal comes first. The purpose comes before pleasing or unpleasing methods, right? Now we get into the idea of victimhood here with people. Sometimes if people would come up and say, oh, so what do you do? Right? Look at that nice car or whatever. Oh, I just got lucky. Right? Because I got tired of hearing how lucky I was. And I know in this group, Lindsay, you know this, right? Never say good luck. Never say that. Right? Never say that. Successful people are lucky. Just ask any failure. Right? But the so-called luck just comes from being the most consistent and persistent person I could possibly be. I actually had someone say when I was doing this marketing thing where I was like the top earner in this whole program for like 7, 8 years. They're like, John, how did you become the top guy in this whole thing? And I said, I've just been more consistent than anyone up to this point. And I suppose if someone else was more consistent than me at doing the right things, then they'd be the top earner. But right now, I guess I'm it. Right. So that's it. That's it. There's a whole book, which we did study in our book study group, The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. Just pick the right actions and just develop the habits on that. And you don't even have to be like spectacular or anything, but you will be spectacular if you just do the little things so consistently that you have these little incremental increases that turn into an exponential, like an explosion. You make a spectacle of yourself. That's the idea here. And you do it without wearing yourself out, right? Because with a habit, you don't have to even think about it. You just keep showing up. You just keep doing it. When we get into the idea of developing ourselves as people, we develop our strengths. I love this quote. I got this from Bob Proctor, by the way. We develop our strengths. We manage our weaknesses. We manage our weaknesses via the strengths of others. So I'm not looking for a mirror now when I'm embracing opportunity. Let's say that we've got an opportunity to do some work together. I hope you're better than I am at doing those actions, which I'm not good at. That's an opportunity for us to do what? To create some leverage. Leverage. If we're all clones or something, where's the leverage in that? And sometimes, yes, I think, wouldn't it be nice if I could clone myself? Because, I do really good work with what I'm good at, okay, but I suck at everything else. Or I'm ignorant, I could say, at most other things. Okay, you're not ignorant. You're good. Please go be good at that. So that's how we manage our weaknesses. That's an opportunity, which I could embrace or I can neglect. Or I could reject. I could say, no, I need to do everything. That's not embracing opportunity. So if opportunity knocks, like let's say I've got a project and I think that, here's Catherine. She's better at that than me. Can I give her an opportunity? It's really giving myself an opportunity to manage my weaknesses via the strengths of Catherine in this case. Hi, Catherine. Okay, but this idea of consistency comes down to something Henry Ford said, doing it right even when no one's looking. No one's looking, but you still have that integrity. You're still doing it, even after the honeymoon. So moving on, Zoom is telling me participants can now see my application. I don't know what that means, whatever. But here's the value of consistency and persistence. Could you imagine if everyone just gave up when adversity showed up in their life? We wouldn't have anything. We'd still be living in caves and rubbing sticks and stones to make fire. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Caveman, for you kept on rubbing that stick and stone. Thank you, sir. Right. Thanks, Tom, for the incandescent lights. I don't want to have to go fill the oil lamp right now and burn the friggin' barn down or whatever. Okay. Other examples. I did some events with Andy Andrews. Anyone read The Traveler's Gift? That's got to go on our reading list. The Traveler's Gift. Oh my goodness. Great book. Colonel Sanders with the chicken, right? Rejection. And here it is. Okay. So holding the course, taking consistent action after the emotional euphoria wears off, after the honeymoon. This leaks over into how we're now perceived. Because again, thinking about opportunities, all opportunities come through other people. Other people are going to be getting opportunities because you're accepting the opportunity to show up in their life as the purveyor of solutions. Think like an entrepreneur, right? I've got benefits that I can give you, Mr. and Mrs. Public, and now I just appeared in your life. How does that occur to you? Am I the advancing man, the advancing woman, the person who causes increase and impresses you with increase when you confront me? Damn well better be. And how am I going to prove that? I'm going to prove that through my own integrity. And then I can say less. I can actually say less to more people and have a bigger impact. Because of who I am, because of who's showing up, one who embraces opportunity, the advancing man or woman, again, to quote, and it's not here in this chapter, but to quote Wallace D. Wallace, The Science of Getting Rich. Here's the flip side, the lottery mentality. Successful people are lucky, right? Maybe the gods will smile upon me, right? And pour upon me and bequeath unto me the riches. Don't hold your breath, right? But if people believe successful people are lucky and that's outside their circle of influence to become successful themselves, well, then all we've got left is, I suppose, hope. And hope is not a strategy, right? Here's an opportunity, Mr. and Mrs. Hopeful. Oh, oh no, that's dressed in work clothes. I don't want to actually work. Well, there must be something wrong with it. Maybe it's a scam. Maybe it's a scam. And look, I'm not here to tell you that there's no such thing as scams and people getting defrauded. That exists too. But again, my observations of many people who were just looking for, is there a way for me to, I don't want to say get rich, because a lot of people have meanings that they add to that. I don't see anything wrong with that. Or get rich quick, right? Okay, so we're not going to get rich quick, but we're going to make a lot more money in a lot less time with less effort. How's that sound? Oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. All right, that's called get rich quick. In fact, I heard someone say, you know what, there is only one way to get rich, and that's quick. What's the alternative? You sit there and be broke like everybody else? No, let's get rich. So here's the idea. The same people, when presented with an opportunity to take action towards their own benefit, to take responsibility for those results and not wait for a lottery ticket, they turn those opportunities down like it's too good to be true. Anything but take responsibility. There's the R word. Sends people running in the other direction. And I cognited that as I was writing it. I was like, oh no, I just used the R word. Just tell people they're responsible. The most prolific philosopher of the, probably of all time, L. Ron Hubbard said, you know what? I could get on the bestseller list anytime I want. All I got to do is write a book titled "You Are a Victim," and it would be an instant bestseller. My goodness. Yeah, just tell people they're responsible. When opportunity knocks, most people roll over and complain about the noise. Who said that? Why is there no attribution to that quote? I said that. So that's a John Lavenia original.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's another trick, right? The butt eyes. Anybody got the butt eyes? Oh, we're making money over here. We're doing this. There's a great opportunity over there. Yeah, but I got problems. Yeah, but I got no money. Yeah, but I got to do the other thing. Yeah, but I can't. The butt eyes. We've all seen those people. Sometimes, in fact, just today, I was on the phone with a spiritual vampire. Anybody have any spiritual vampires in your midst? These are people who could suck the life out of a conversation. Like no matter what solutions you offer them. Yeah, but oh my goodness, painful. And it went on for 28 minutes and I'm busy. Okay. But I got to have one of those today. But you know what? That's part of the vehicle that I've chosen, right? I get to deal with lots of different people, attempting to drag them to success. But so we are citing our circumstances. Here we are saying I'm a victim, but I can't, but I've got circumstances. And here's James Allen. Circumstances don't make the man. It reveals him to himself. There's the responsibility once again. So there's payoff for this, though. Anyone who's ever read Dorothea Brand's Wake Up and Live, the first 4 chapters of that book, that's got to go on our reading list, too. See this, Lindsay? I'm coming up with all these books that are going on our reading list. So the first 4 chapters of that book are all about victimhood and why it's so great and why you love it. The rewards of victimhood, the will to fail. Because the payoff is that we get to sit around and agree with each other. And look, I won't hold you to account for your mediocrity and your excuses as long as you don't hold me to account. That's that tacit consent, right? That unspoken agreement. We all get to be on the slow boat to nowhere together, but at least we get to be social. It's all very nice, right? Agreement. George Bernard Shaw. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, that if they can't find them, make them. Opportunity knocks. And if it doesn't knock, well, damn, start knocking on something. Make it happen. Lindsay, you've got a thought.
You said you can get rich quicker, goes faster, go the slow boat. You can take 150 something months, right? Be stuck there 150 something months. But damn it, it won't be this month if it's not already. So no butt eyes.
No butt eyes.
Done.
No case of the butt eyes for you.
No, done.
Right. Here's
But-
another way. Thank you, Lindsay. Here's another way to deflect opportunity. And again, keep in mind, I had the opportunity here to deal with a lot of people who are looking to transition out of the employee world and employee mindset and into entrepreneurship. Do I have to do it that way? But do I have to? No, hold on a second. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's not about have to. That's employee thinking. That is effect, not cause. Choose to, choose not to. You asked, I answered. Here's the advice. You could take it, you could not take it, but please, enough with the victimhood and you have to, or somebody made you do something. We're talking about opportunities, not obligations. Big difference. But if we are pigeonholing ourselves into seeing everything in life as a have to, as an obligation, and my whole damn life is obligatory. In fact, that was a line from a movie. Anybody see the movie Parenthood? Steve Martin was a classic, right? And he actually said in a moment of exasperation to his wife in the movie, he said, "My whole life is have to." Is that how we're experiencing this? Obligations? I like opportunities better, right? But it takes a bit of consciousness to do that, right? But I hear it in the outer dialogue of people when they're thinking like a victim, when they're thinking like everything's a have to. No. We got to break out of that. Bob and Missy, you got a thought on that?
Yeah. Missy has to go feed the cat. She has to do it, but that's the cat. The cat has to be fed.
Okay, well,
Right.
you got
But
that.
no,
You chose that. You chose to have a cat, right?
Yes. But this whole conversation reminds me of Harvey Penick, who any golfer knows was a great coach. He taught Tom Kite and Ben Crenshaw, who were two great professional golfers, major champions. He also taught some very prominent lady professionals. He was having a conversation with one lady professional, and then she excused herself and said, "Sorry, coach, I have to go. I have to play. I have to start my round." And he said, "No." He says, "I get to play golf.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to. I get to."
Right. That's beautiful. Just that one little word. What a difference. Completely different experience. Most people don't
That's
think
why
about
it's
this.
very correct with the cat, though,
What was that, Ingrid?
because it's still very correct with the cat, though. You have to feed the cat. It's not
Oh,
about you get to feed the cat.
Well, yeah, but you chose to have the cat. You get to have a cat. So
Uh-huh.
for better or worse.
Is that
Right.
how that goes?
Oh yeah, that's how that goes, right? Notice I don't have a cat. I do have
I
a
was gonna
three-legged
say, you obviously
chihuahua.
don't have a cat.
Right. I do have a three-legged chihuahua.
That's true.
All right. It's just a quote that I remember getting from one of my workout buddies, a guy who was big muscle head, and this just rings true. As soon as you start making excuses, you stop making progress. So get in the gym. Here's the quote that Missy cited earlier. Your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they shall not long remain so if you but perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. In other words, embracing opportunity. Again, in the chapter on opportunity in The Science of Getting Rich, he talks about this. Also, in anyone ever read the book? We did in our book study group, George Clayson, Richest Man in Babylon. There's a chapter in that book, Lindsay, you may remember, the goddess of good luck. The goddess of good luck was one of the chapters in that book, and the richest man in Babylon. And the punchline for all of it, and if you haven't read the book, it is awesome. Read that friggin' book, amazing book. But the punchline was basically embracing opportunity. That's how the goddess smiles upon you, is that you don't procrastinate, you embrace opportunity quickly, right? So there's that. Here's a couple of things to expedite your journey. Find an established business model that'll increase the speed and likelihood of your success. A lot of us are doing that, right? So we've got vehicles, plural, right? We've got things that we can do. Here's e-commerce. Here's marketing businesses. Here are opportunities that are established where I don't have to be the pioneer. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Certainly there's cost of entry in terms of time, money, attention, right? Of course, we're going to invest in that, but it's got proof of concept, right? That's good. And if you want to know that you're kind of on the right path here, Don't seek a bunch of agreement from the ne'er-do-wells who litter the internet. Look for a bunch of complainers, right? Because now you know this is going somewhere. Where there are no oxen, the crib is clean. Solomon said, right? Proverbs. So if like the thing that you cherish above everything is stillness and like never a complaint, never a critic, well, then there's no performance either. As soon as there's a performer, there's going to be a critic, right? So look for action, look for volume. And sometimes I'll tell you what, I'll go on like Amazon, for example, is an easy one. You go on, you're looking at a product and look at the reviews. And let's say that's like 4.5-star reviews. I want to read, obviously the majority of the reviews are going to be, 4 or 5 stars. Okay. I want to read the 1-star ones too, just for entertainment value. Right. So like, let's see if these people can make sentences and stuff like that. But there's always going to be a critic whenever there's a performance happening. Okay. And what does the critic add to anything? Nothing, right? One more tip. More important than what we do is who we do it with. Or I will say, at least, here's something I may have worded differently if I was writing it today. At least as important as what business we do is who we do it with. This lesson cost me millions of dollars to learn, working with the wrong people. We're not going to get into horror story, tales of woe and everything right now, but I will just tell you that was an expensive lesson for me. Again, integrity is everything. Who you working with, who you doing this with, because anything could work. That opportunity, you can do anything. Virtually anything could work. Who are you doing it with? That has a lot to do with its staying power, by the way. Okay. So back to this whole idea of victimhood. This is something that spreads like a virus or a cancer, right? It just goes through the population. There's a lot of agreement on that. As we said in the previous chapter, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So here's an opportunity for you to go be part of the solution in the lives of others, and to not just fall into agreement with victim society who wants to convince you that you can't because they refuse to. You can't because I refuse to. That's the conversation. Now, I would never take responsibility for that. Okay. I'm just telling you that I can't too, but really is I won't. That's the real translation. And then I go on to a little bit of an observation here about on a larger sense than just people, like in my current, little environment here, just a few thousand people, but here's millions of people also perpetuating victimhood. Ben Franklin, one of my heroes of life, said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. I know we got people who are in this conversation who are not from the United States. Okay. But this was one of the founders here who really knew some stuff. I've studied this guy's biography, and to think that we would shrink back into safety and give up essential liberty is such a repulsive thought for Ben and for people who tend to agree with Ben, like myself. I look at that as it relates to opportunity here on a bigger sense. We've got a society right now, and I wrote this over a decade ago, so you can see for yourself the direction that's been going for the last 10 years. Okay, we've got a society who would lean towards, hey, you know what? You do it for me. You know what? Here, take the power, Mr. and Mrs. Bureaucrat, government, statist, right? You take the power and you just go ahead and give me my handouts, my entitlement programs, my whatever. I don't want to seize opportunity. I want you to do for me. So take my power, take the control, take the responsibility. I want anything but to be responsible. I want anything but to actually be cause of my own situation. Wow. And so I observe that, and it kind of drives me a bit crazy. But this is something that I got from a guy named Doug Weed. Doug Weed was one of the best orators I've ever had a chance to do an event with. And he was talking about how he was growing up during the Cold War, and I think many of us were, right? And they were doing air raid siren drills at the, he was a schoolboy, right? As a schoolboy, and they would get under the desk when the siren goes off because the Russians might be bombing. So this is the air raid drill. And then later in life, he got to work with people who, after the Soviet Union collapsed, as all socialist and communist governments have to do. So that came apart. And now here are people who are able to engage in free enterprise. and to participate in opportunities. And he got to talking with this guy who grew up in Soviet Russia during the Cold War, and they were doing business now, and they were doing a speaking event together or whatever. And he was telling him how he used to hide under the desk for the air raid drills, and the Russian guy said, "Yeah, we used to do the same thing because the Americans might be bombing us." And they're like, "Holy crap!" Right? And this guy was just so happy to have free enterprise and the ability to travel and work and embrace opportunity. And so what Doug said, like the punchline for all of this was, so what's worse, to have your boot down in the mud with the boot, or your face down in the mud with the boot of oppression on your neck, or to have your face down in the mud with no boot on your neck? Look around, America. What's worse? Opportunity's knocking. Is everyone home? Is anyone home? There's no boot on your neck, at least not right now. You've got some degree of free enterprise and self-determinism. In fact, that's the other thing Doug said, was that 80% of your financial success, you getting rich and whatever you want to do, 80% of it is political liberty and free enterprise. 80% of it. The other 20% is what you do with it. There's no boot on your neck. Simple action. Now we get into journaling, and some of you have been doing this. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're writing 3 things. If you're looking for structure and you want to get into this idea, here's an opportunity for you, which you could embrace if you like. This idea of introspection. Okay, there's 3 things we can write about: what you learned, okay, what your challenges were, and what your wins were. So here's my challenges for the day. Here's my wins. Here's what I succeeded at, right? So that's good acknowledgement. And here's what I learned today. Now, this is going to drive you to actually think, right? Because every time we acknowledge our wins and what we learn, we expand that, right? That becomes more real. What we validate expands. And when we acknowledge our challenges for the day, we get to look at them objectively. We get to put the stuff down on paper and see what we wrote, and not just have it weighing on our mind. We get to now look at it, and now it is apart from us, right? And there it is. It's pretty therapeutic. And you go back a year, 5, 10 years later, and you read what you wrote. Oh my goodness. Wow. That was like the best self-help book I ever read. And it was what I wrote 10 years ago in my journal. Yeah. So if you haven't been doing this, if you like to do that, obviously it's an opportunity to develop consistency and a bit of introspection, but your challenges, your wins, and what you learned for that day. And then don't throw it out. Don't throw it out. That's like, that goes on the bookshelf, and then go back in the archive and see where you were at 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Really powerful stuff. The other thing you could do is you could seek an opportunity to fulfill the vision for yourself. Could be in the area of, fitness. Great. There are such a thing as fitness centers and gyms or whatever. Go join one. That's an opportunity. If it's a business thing, go seek. Look, there are people right here on this program right now on our broadcast who are killing it in business, multiple different kinds of businesses, right? So part of our mastermind experience is you get to mastermind with people. And again, for everyone who's a member here with the group, we're pretty much family at this point. You know how to reach each other. So, but the point is, once you've educated yourself, make a damn decision and take action, right? No procrastination here. Otherwise, the goddess of good luck shall not smile upon thee. I spaketh enough. Let me stop speakingeth. Who else would like to speak? Any other thoughts? Wow, we're an hour and 20 minutes into this. Let me stop sharing my screen. We got 2 more chapters plus the little thing on the final words at the end. So we're going to wrap this book up next week. So read the rest of the book. And buckle your seatbelt for the next chapter, by the way. It's not okay. So, Missy, you've already read it? You've already read It's Not Okay?
I have the book, yes.
Yeah.
That's the first book I read.
Oh, you read cover to cover. Okay. And we're still friends? That's good. Okay. Very nice. Any other thoughts? Ingrid, thoughts?
Just enjoying you.
Well, I'm enjoying you. It'd be great to see you sometime, but I know you got the Canadian internet thing going on. So
Very excited. It's the second day of the month, and so I have internet.
wow.
So
Wow.
take as long as you want tonight.
Okay. Well, we don't want you to use up your limit of bits and bytes or whatever they're doing over there. Ingrid's patiently waiting for the new, what's it called? It's the Elon Musk thing.
Starlink,
Yeah.
Starlink.
Okay.
And you can
Starlink.
go on a website, you can go on a site, Starlink something, and you can watch them walking across the sky. They're really fun. We saw them a couple of months ago. They're just like, what are these weird lights just going in a line across the sky? And then, yeah, we realized that they were walking through our neighborhood on their way up north or something.
Right. Good
It's
stuff.
super cool
World gets destroyed in the Terminator.
in a charming fashion. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the next chapter. Okay. Well, very good. Thank you, Ingrid. Catherine, I didn't hear a peep from you. Jennifer, anything you'd like to share before we wrap up? Last chance. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. I know it's summer and everyone's at the lake and the beach and the barbecue, but there's still time to talk philosophy with Uncle John. So really glad you're all here. I will see you back here next week. And in the meantime, go read the next couple of chapters, and then we're going to pick our next book next week. And I think it's going to be Ray Halliwell, Working with the Law. So
When are you gonna write when are you gonna write the next one? This session was like awesome.
yeah, well, thank you.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. And you'll know when I'm writing the next book because I'm going to vanish for a week. I'm going
A whole week. Wow.
A week. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's how long this book took. A week.
I mean, longer than that to read the book.
Yeah. Well, I just spit it out, and then I took a year to edit it, so that took longer than a week. But yeah, just spit it out. So it's like giving birth, Lindsay. It's like giving birth. There's all this prep, and there's all this, percolating and marinating, and then it's time. And when I'm in labor, you'll know I'm in labor. Okay. So
I totally get that analogy.
okay, very
No,
good.
can't
My
get-
water breaks. I'm calling you.
What break?
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah. No, this book is awesome, but these two chapters tonight, I was like speechless.
Wow.
Damn. That was really good. I enjoyed this.
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you all. We'll see you back here next time.